I would like to welcome first Franco Accordino from DG CNECT to really give us an introduction. You can come here on stage. Introduction on the topic.
Thank you, Enrique, and thanks also for inviting me to such an interesting discussion in a quite exotic area, not far away from Brussels, though. So in the next years, 5 years, maybe 10 years, we are going to speak about competitiveness. So there are some slides that will come, I hope. And I think that competitiveness is not a business only for the cities or for the large industrial conglomerates. It is also for rural. So I think we should try to avoid this bias saying, I mean, competitiveness is something happening somewhere, maybe not even in Europe, elsewhere. And we are the ones who passively or more or less passively adopt these technologies. Competitiveness goes hand in hand with innovation, and innovation can happen even locally. Every single small community can be a cradle of innovation for two reasons, let's say. I'm here speaking without slides. Now, sorry, I've organized my presentation around the slides, but I have no problem with that because it will not take, maybe it's even better because this way we avoid taking too long time. For two reasons. First, because innovation is triggered by demand, and the rural has a lot of originality, let's call it this way, and so quite challenging use cases for the technology suppliers. We have to bear this in mind, and this is a golden value, not to speak about then for each use case you have data, and you generate data which are the value of today and for the future, first point. Secondly, I would also say something, okay, that maybe not everyone would agree. Locally, you have talent. I mean, we should come out of this, stereotype that, locally, there are lack of skills. Yes, that's true. It's good that we put there a point. But locally, we have brilliant people, brilliant mind with a lot of creativity. And some of them, even with some technological, STEM type of background, maybe desires to stay locally and maybe do their job from their local, location, from their home, their original home, and maybe they can actually attract new talents and create businesses, create, joint forces. So sometimes what is lacking there is somehow the ability to scale up. So there are good situations there, good ideas, good projects, and then they basically, for whatever reason, they are confined within the borders of maybe not beyond the regional level. And that, I think, is a missed opportunity. But that's a more, let's say, general issue that we have. And you have heard Mr. Draghi yesterday, the day before yesterday, saying, okay, we need really to wake up, because 1 year after, not that much has happened to what I had advised. Not that Mr. Draghi is the voice of the truth, but I think he has experience and he has made us a few points. What I would like to recommend, and I think we need to be concrete, I understand here, is to avoid that phenomenon that, say, a local town has to develop a digital system for whatever type of application, being it e-health, being it smart agriculture, being it logistics or transport or whatever it is. They need capacity. They need connectivity, first of all. And connectivity, we are advancing. We are advancing overall. If you have seen in July the report of the digital decade, we saw that from the previous year, we increased, I think, if I'm not wrong, from 52 to 60. Allow me to tell you more precisely. Overall, from 63 to 69. But on rural, it increased from 52 to 58. So basically, rural, for what concerns FTTH, fiber to the home, fiber to the premises, lags behind the rest of, the more global indicator, about 10%. And I think this cannot be accepted. There is a lot of diversity in the member states. For instance, if we go to Romania, because maybe of the cohesion funds, and maybe because of the RRF, of the legitimate choices of the government to spend in rural, I think in Romania it's performing quite well, rural, compared to the rest of but if you go somewhere else, you see even the bigger gap of 20–30% compared to the populated areas. And I think this is unacceptable, because without connectivity, basically you do nothing nowadays. You know very well. We don't even discuss this. 5G is more or less the same. In rural 5G, especially standalone 5G. So the 5G that you can use for high-value applications, not just to connect with your mobile phone with a higher performance, but especially to implement those use cases, we name again, smart agriculture or telemedicine or remote monitoring and treatment of patients and things like that. You can do that only if you have a very reliable and stable technology. First of all, connectivity. And 5G standalone is like that. But also on top of it, also the rest of the technology, which has to be trustworthy. It has to be not only just efficient, but it has to be trustworthy at the same time. And now I go back to what I wanted to say. We should avoid, let's say, a situation which we see too often, that the administrations, the local administrations, have to deliver a system, right? E-health or whatever. They want to demonstrate also to their constituency how good they are. That's very legitimate. This is politics, right? But this is also being efficient. And they don't look at from where the supply of such technology come from. Result, that a lot of funds, being them European or being them national or local, flow outside Europe, which means we are not making the industrial supply, the technology supply from the Union, the made in EU, more competitive. And that's a missed opportunity. So our goal, first action, is to, in the future, including in the context of the conference, try to measure how much the local and rural demand matches the European made in EU supply. And I'm not speaking here about the connectivity layer, because, of course, and the connectivity layer is also important, this one, but I'm looking really at the entire digital stack. Cloud, AI. We are in the world of AI, right? So we don't expect that an AI gigafactory would be installed and would be operated in a rural community. We don't need that. But I would expect that the benefit all over the value chain of having very powerful supercomputing, I mean the gigafactories we are speaking about, these have to go everywhere, including the rural communities. And it's not just a matter of improving connectivity. It's not just a matter of delivering better services. It's also, as Elizabeth said earlier in the keynote speech, also about of inclusiveness and democracy. That's the important thing. So my message would be that we should define an indicator of how much this matchmaking between the local demand and the European supply is working across the Union. And then discussing everywhere better ways of increasing this matchmaking, making it more solid. Because it's only here the key to strengthen the competitiveness, and here I come back to what I said in the beginning. We will discuss about competitiveness in the next 5 to 10 years. But without the demand of the local demand matching the European level supply, we go nowhere. And this is exactly the connected 3C, connected collaborative computing. So connectivity we were speaking about, 5G everywhere, and FTTH in every household. Then the computing is the cloud, is the gigafactory. It is also the whole stack, which has to be made in EU if we really want to trust it, right? And then the collaborative stands really for connecting across the value chain from the application side, from the use cases, down to the technology supplier. And I think with this one, I really call everyone to to reflect how we can make this 3C network working. It's already there. We have plenty of examples. I don't want really to present the slide now, otherwise I will burn all the time. Just wanted to show one thing. Go ahead, next one, next one. This is the concept. So we need to have this one supplied from union, possibly, if it can be also from outside. We don't want to be protectionist here, but it has to comply to our values. The data, we have a full empowerment of the citizens, of the communities on the data. Otherwise, they will just become a source of exploitation. Allow me to say this, okay? So this is where we need to supply, and then the use cases. And sometimes we say we invest first at the level of cross-border, large transcontinental infrastructures, then we go to the cities, and then later on we go to the rural. Let's invert the thing. It can go also the other way around. We can start small, and we can go to the other slide, please. We can start small with the local projects, maybe not such a big project, but already at the local level you create an example, a best practice of how this connection could work, this 3C network could work. And just to tell you one thing, I don't want here to make advertisement, we started already quite a long time ago this, let's say 4 or 5 years ago, with the Connecting Europe facility. We funded 41 projects which are worth 128 millions on 5G smart communities. So we combine the 5G together with the cloud. We bundle edge cloud with the 5G to make sure that you have the necessary reactiveness of the network and the computing capacity. And we bundle them with the very demanding use cases, including in smart agriculture, rural applications. We have one here in Flanders, for instance. It is a Flanders Smart Field, is called, which is financed by the 5G Smart Community Call. And then we have the large-scale corridor, which are more continental level. And the last slide, just to say that indeed, this is the template of our project would look like. Most all the projects in digital are like that. You have the connectivity infrastructure in the bottom, then you have the digital enablers, the data edge, cloud computing, AI capacities, and then the use cases vertically integrated. Here is where the talent from local can make a difference. Say, I know very well my application. I have the engineers locally. We can coalesce. We can make a smart specification. We can then standardize and becomes European standard. And then with the injection of scale-up financing, this can emerge at the global level and compete. So that's our dream and what we have to do. And I finish with the financing because I guess this is important. To make this happen, we need to be able to pull together the budget from different sources. This has also been said this morning, I think also by Elizabeth. In the next multi-annual financial program, we have competitiveness fund, you know, it's quite a huge fund. Not all competitiveness is for the industrial large conglomerates, as I said. It is also for the local. And so we have their hooks in a way that we can finance maybe a component from the ECF. Another component, we have an investment fund. Another component will be private loan. Another component will be, it's important to bring these things together. The competitiveness compass foresees a kind of solution for that is called competitiveness coordination projects, in a way that we don't disperse the funding in thousands of directions. And inside the individual project, we connect, as I said, the local demand with the more European-wide technological supply. If we will be able to do that, I can tell you, we will be far more competitive compared to the rest of the regions of the world. And that's exactly where we can make the difference. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and apologies from our side for the technical issues, but yes, I hope you enjoyed. It was clear. It's very technical and difficult topic. A lot of pieces of the puzzle that we need to connect technically, local level actors, etc. And I think it's very relevant that we have Goran very enthusiastic to present his example, particularly on 5G infrastructure in Slovenia. So I made sure your presentation is ready now. So the floor is yours. the clicker
Yes.
to change.
Thank you. I'm very honored to be here and to be able to present. So our project is one of those little dots Franco had on the map. As you can see, the project is located northern Adriatic part of Europe. We are working, okay, this one. The municipality is called Zygouritsas Bistrica. It's the second biggest municipality in Slovenia. It's a rural municipality, 28 inhabitants per square kilometer, where there are vast areas that are uninhabited, and this is one of the challenges we are addressing with our project. We are the private promoter of the project. The project is composed of two parts. We are building the supporting infrastructure. The municipality is bringing the use cases, two use cases in this case, in this project. We have a strange name. Don't bother the name. It's an acronym for the content of the use cases. Yeah, just a couple of words about myself. So I'm involved in the development and construction of infrastructure, telecommunication infrastructure in European rural areas since 2007, working with CNECT quite for some time. I've built fiber a lot in Slovenia, Croatia, and Austria, and I rerouted my attention to 5G since January this year. So these are the challenges we have been presented by the municipality. Parts of their aqueduct are from the Austro-Hungarian Empire, so they are more than 100 years old. They are losing a lot of water, and they need a system to detect leakage and to prevent leakage, and to increase energy efficiency by knowing where they need water, to pump the water in those periods of the day where electricity is cheaper. So we need to put some kind of brain in the aqueduct system. The second one is related more to the unpopulated areas. There are mountains. People tend to wander around mountains and getting lost in the mountains, in the woods, or even getting injured in the woods. But if the rescue teams are going there, they need connectivity to communicate, and we can use connectivity, infrastructural level connectivity, also to detect the presence of someone who is lost on the mountain and cannot call for help by himself. So these are the two use cases. What we are doing, so we are deploying on the populated areas a fixed mobile network, so putting 14 base stations all around this municipality. For the non-populated areas, we are providing the voluntary firefighters teams, the trailers, they can drag to the unpopulated areas and set up on-demand 5G connectivity for the duration of the intervention. So where they need for the time they need, and then they bring the trailers back in the valley. In this way, we can ensure they have connectivity when they need, and we don't waste money and energy by giving connectivity to the unpopulated areas where it is not needed. Furthermore, for the really challenging areas, we are just in the process of acquiring a bigger drone, which will bring a mobile base station on the drone. So we will be giving the connectivity on the ground for the rescue teams from the drone. So in this way, we can cover very deep valleys, very problematic places, not only by flying with the drone over a person with the phone, we can detect the presence of the person there. So we are helping also in the discovery of people that have been injured, lost, or somehow. Now, I am coming, so these are the challenges we have to address still. As Franco noted, we have to build the infrastructure first. You cannot have the use cases based on the infrastructure without the infrastructure. But for the future, we have to find further use cases in a way to ensure us enough revenue. We are a private company running this infrastructure. Our obligation is to grant that the infrastructure is operative. So we have to stimulate the local communities to think about further use cases that will use this infrastructure and contribute in part to cover its costs. We are planning to do this by this so-called spillover, so we want this infrastructure to be used and abused by as many users as possible, giving competitive, non-commercial prices just for the scope of getting as much use cases as possible. Now, I'm coming to the issues and then I will suggest some actions. In most European countries, there have been tenders for 5G frequencies. In 0 European countries, there has been a 100% coverage obligation for the operators. In most countries, there is a 95% obligation, coverage obligation. 95% of population. So the remaining 5% of population, which is clearly rural, means 25% of European territory. If we don't provide 5G infrastructure to those 25% of the European territory, we will not have smart farming there because it will not work. We will not have self-driving postman vehicles that will deliver daily mail. We will not have drones delivering medicines. We will not have self-driving tractors or harvesters. So if we don't provide coverage of this 5%, which is outside of the coverage obligation of the big operators, we are saying goodbye to 25% of the European territory. And this is a clear risk, and I hope Rural Pact will address this, because this is something that the majority of people don't know. They are not realizing that 5% of population is 25%. Go and ask your politicians if they are willing to give away 25% of the territory of their country. They are not. Yes, but this is the situation that is happening. All these systems need to have allocated spectrum, frequency spectrum. Because of the greed of the governments, most of the spectrum is being sold to the big operators with allowance not to cover 100% of the country. If all the frequencies are sold to the big operators, those 25% of the territory will remain without service. So we have to make a request through a Rural Pact and with all other means that there will be frequencies left for those who are doing this kind of project as we are doing, that when these kind of projects come, there will be frequencies available to do the project. Because at the moment, we are going in a direction that the frequencies will all be assigned to the big operators, and you cannot use the same frequency if it has been assigned with a contract to a private operator. And this is a real challenge for the rural areas. We have to request that there is a dedicated set of frequencies for the local use. It has to be homogenized through the member states, because this is another problem, and at the moment it is not. Because in Slovenia, we are building these networks on 2.3 gigahertz. In other countries, they are using 3.4 gigahertz. In other countries, 700 megahertz. If we have to reinvent the technology to solve the problem for every country separated, we are not gaining economies of scale, and we cannot transfer know-how. So frequencies, homogenization of frequencies, and afterwards it will follow the homogenization of technologies, because if we don't have homogenization, we cannot provide one solution that can fit European rural areas as a whole. We will have to reinvent the project for every single country. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for sharing the perspective from your experience working with 5G and specific use cases in Slovenia. So we had good insights, good recommendations already coming there. I think your experience would be very useful in the group discussion on infrastructure that will take place during the later on in the mini groups. Now, we would like to move to another inspirational example, in this case on digital skills working with kids. And I would like to welcome Nikos, and I don't dare to say your last name, Zygouritsas.
It's a little Greek to you.
I didn't butcher it, yes. So the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. So it's Nikos Zygouritsas. First of all, I would like to thank Enrique and his team for not only taking interest in what we have done in the last years with rural schools around Europe, but thinking that we are an inspirational example, let's say. So, as I said, I'm Nikos Zygouritsas. I work for Ellinogermaniki Agogi, a private school in Greece, which we are collaborating with organizations around Europe to support teachers and schools, and in the specific case, rural schools around Europe. I don't know how. This one. So we have been discussing, and you all know about the digital skills gap, which was evident in 2021, where we had just over one quarter, 26% of the EU population reported above basic overall digital skills, 33 in the cities, 24 in towns and suburbs, and only 20% in rural areas. This trend persisted in 2023. And, you know, I have prepared the presentation, but I cannot comment on the discussion we are having that the 5G infrastructure and the divide in the infrastructure, I'm afraid, will not give a solution, but maybe increase the digital divide in digital skills around Europe. So, as you can see, cities outperform rural areas, and then especially not only in basic communication and collaboration skills, but what is very important for the topic that I'm going to discuss, school education, teachers and students, there's a bigger gap at basic digital content creation skills. And why I'm saying digital content creation skills, because, no, I'm going back, I should go forward. One of the major challenges in rural education is access to content. It's not only access to infrastructure, it's not only access to tools and ICT tools and broadband connectivity, but also to resources. So if teachers and students don't have the skills that we have seen before in creating digital content, this divide will persist. So we have seen, I'm going to talk a little bit about the challenges in rural education, the digital divide, the funding issues, lack of equipment, connectivity problems. This is not only a problem for schools, but also for the local community, for hospitals, for the local authorities, for everyone. But more importantly, students in rural areas tend to have lower socioeconomic status, which is evident even in the cities, that we can see kids from lower socioeconomic status not perform as well as other kids. We have higher truancy rates and decreased likelihood of accessing higher education. What we have seen, and it is a real issue, is teacher shortages in the rural schools due to remoteness. I come from a country, Greece, where we have seen that in the previous presentation that access to the local health facilities or local school facilities, we were on the far left, so driving to the local facilities is much more a bigger problem there. And we have seen teacher shortages because newly appointed teachers, younger teachers, are appointed in rural areas, but after 2 or 3 years, they tend to go back to larger cities. So this is a real problem. There is limited career opportunities, and what we see more and more is digital burnout. They don't have the skills and they don't have the facilities in order to address the needs of the students and the local communities. And of course, we have disparities in educational quality between rural and urban areas, which create further obstacles for equal education opportunities. So what can we do? I'm going to present the legacy of a project, which was a pilot project and preparatory action called Learning from the Extremes, which focused on fostering innovation in rural schools and aimed at addressing inequalities of access to digital education by enhancing inclusion and by reducing the digital gap that these school communities suffered. We worked in 10 countries with 123 schools, and through a process we provided digital tools, applications, and computers, but most importantly, opportunities to connect, opportunities for teacher professional development. And we have seen significant growth in innovation, almost 20% on average, which this growth was much higher for the less advantaged schools, up to 25% in 1 year intervention. So what we did concretely is we asked from schools around Europe to present their school development plan. What are the concrete needs of the teachers? What are the concrete needs of the students? But most importantly, because we don't consider the school to be an island, what are the concrete needs of the local community? So the needs were access to resources, access to tools, and access to collaboration with other schools. And based on their development plan, we funded professional development programs, we funded opportunities for collaboration, or the possibility to have new ICT tools in the classroom. We worked, why we were named it Learning from the Extremes, because we have chosen different schools from different countries. Yesterday, I forget the name, the ministry from Finland described that the problem of digital skills is not about students, kids, or the younger generation, but also the older population. We had a very interesting project in Finland that brought together students and the local community in order to have intergenerational projects and describe what was the name was Reading with a Nanny, and the older generation came together and they created new projects with the younger generation. So our vision, the Rural Wings Academy, it's to have the school as a learning hub for the rural community, that school that introduces the innovation in the classroom, fosters digital skills not only for the students but for the local community, creates an attractive environment for all, facilitates inclusion, and sees itself as an ecosystem of digital innovation. I left the second to last, effectively, because I think it is very important, effectively engages families, local communities, industry, experts, and everyone around the schools. We have seen it. I have talked about 123 schools from 10 countries. A very example that came through in Spain, in Finland, in Cyprus, in Ireland, is that they created innovation centers that remained open after the school hours, innovation centers for the whole community, because in this way they have access to new resources and to new digital skills, not only for the school community in the smaller sense, teachers and students, but in the larger sense for the whole community. And I overpassed my time. So thank you very much, and I will be happy to discuss this further. Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you very much, Nikos. I think you exemplified with a concrete example of big work done around digital skills with rural schools at the center, not only of improving the digital skills of new generations, but also as a learning hub that is useful for the whole community schools, which, by the way, in many places, in many rural areas are being closed, and they could play a very good role to drive rural communities to the digital era. So thank you very much. Now, the next example. So we are touching very important pillars when we talk about digitalization. We talked about infrastructure, we talk about ecosystem, we talk about digital skills. The next one is really to try to get and transfer technologies and in specific cases at community level in rural areas. So now we're gonna fly from Greece to Latvia, and I'd like to welcome Ieva Utena from Koknese community to describe the project there.
Yes. So hi, I'm. It's a bit cold. So my name is Ieva. For you, maybe Eve would be easier, and I'm from Koknese, and I'll tell about how we, as local community, embrace digital technologies. So to understand what have we done, you have to understand where we come from. So in 2025, we received a Smart Rural Community Recognition sign as 4 NGOs working together. And of course, we have our own interests and our own missions, but applying for Smart Rural, we had to work together, and because we have such a rich and beautiful historical heritage, we determined our smart values or keys, and they are cultural landscape, and not only researching and preserving and passing on cultural history to new generations and tourists, but also developing storytelling sector, which is promoting literacy skills, and to use our natural and active lifestyle. Of course, knowledge is also an important key for our community and for lifelong learning, especially in digital era, and implementation of innovational solutions and revival of culture and historical heritage with help of digital technologies. And we were talking about how we need to make rural places attractive to new generations, and for us it's also very important to build this sense of belonging, working together as a community, making local patriotism across generations, building strong families and cooperation between generations. So, and I have a few of our good practices. So this project was, we were using a platform or application for tourists coming by train. So it's easily, Koknese is really to accessed from Riga by train. So, and to do the walking to the castle more exciting, the application was made. And it was a story told by, we have River Daugava, and we have really big catfishes. So it was River Daugava catfish story about places that are no longer there in Koknese. So you could scan QR codes, and you can see there were old pictures, and the catfish was telling the story about it. And it was very good because it's implementing to all generations, also for kids, because it's interesting, it's storytelling. And it was cooperation with our local specialists. We have this digital solution business Jens and writer Mare Beitana. Another good example is making VR and AR technologies as tool to revive history. So our area is changed differently since 1965, when hydroelectric station was built up River Daugava, and to preserve and make accessible to see how it is changed. The smart tool was created. So you have a timeline on smart screen, and you can just switch between the years, and you can see how the area was flooded. And also community was embraced in this project because there was advertisement, and we were asking to bring old photos to see the area, how it was. And also these photographs were studied by geologists and history specialists, and also more than 150 photographs are placed on this smart board, so you can choose the places in these yellow circles, and you can see how it was before. And artificial reality was used in animation, which you can see down below. So it's animation of the flooding. Also, as I mentioned, we have our GINs, which are creating animations, and also this animation is about Koknese castle ruins. This is how they look now, and this animation is, you can see how they were built stone by stone, how their military attracts, so history events, and you can easily go through the medieval castle look of the craftsman or everyday life. And both of these smart tools are placed for public use. So everybody, tourists or even locals, can go and see how it was before. And of course I mentioned that digital generation, we need to also implement them in our community. So this summer, we created a summer school for 20 children and youngsters, and it was about storytelling, miniature art, engineering, VR, AR, robotics, and designing. So for 5 days, they were working together, building the 4 art projects. They were building miniature building, miniature train wagon, diorama and interior, and you can see how excited they are after engineering their first light-sensitive bag. So, and this was the meaning, not to only engage young people in the research of our history and cultural, but also to see and engage them as future specialists, to nurture them, so in hope they will come back and be our preservatives. So our conclusions and recommendations. Digital tools not only improve tourism, but also local patriotism in young digital generation. So it makes them easy, accessible, and fun to learn about their own community. And key of success are all local enthusiasm, collaboration with other NGOs, entrepreneurs, and municipalities. So we all working together. We put our all common interests and start looking for projects so we can implement them. Invest in young and inexperienced specialists, see their potential, or create your own. As I mentioned, before many times, so we have our genes, and the story is really remarkable. They come from a family of 12 children, and 3 brothers. They wanted to learn programming, and they didn't go to special schools or anything, so they learned programming from YouTube. And now they are quite big company, and they're even doing European Union projects. So, and the first start was that we as community gave them the startup. So we believed in them, we saw their potential, and now they are grown. Be skilled in project management and see opportunities to fund your ideas, and be patient. Don't be afraid to start small, and I would say don't be afraid to return to small. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very inspiring example of a community in rural Latvia, starting small but doing big things, based on cooperation between many different actors. So, fantastic example. Thank you very much.